Tricia leashed her gentle giant, combed the fur around his collar, and planted a prolonged, theatrical kiss on his fluffy head. She fought the instinct to sling on the delivery vest hanging from her back door. There was always extra cash to be made, but why turn their morning out into a job? This was time set aside to catch up with her magnificent beast. After locking her basement suite, Tricia and her boy set out. She kept tight hold of the leash, keeping it within a meter in length. Her dog was no longer immune to the evolving palette of fleas, ticks, and worms barraging the city. Sophisticated crawlies were widely known to burrow into pets, causing anything from mild itching to fatal neoplasia. Maury, get away from that. And that. Maury, are you listening? She would not permit him near any bush, puddle, or large pile of leaves. In a determined beeline, she guided Maurice for 40 minutes past the abandoned streets, boarded-up shops, and tent cities. Up the hill they climbed until they reached an area where street lamps worked reliably and benches had dividers that prevented one from lying down. Ironically, the bright, bustling gentry hood was even harder for Tricia to look at. The cheery business logos ignited the urge to check her watch and feel for the slots in her imaginary vest. Wherever she glanced, the memory of a dozen city shortcuts would beckon, along with the yearning for that familiar notification sound. No, I am not working. Maurice and I are hanging out. Only when she approached the entrance to Oak Rise did all these stresses wane. Even Maurice felt the tension drop, as if he too could read, "Welcome to Oak Rise, Neighborhood Dog Park." It was the largest dog park in the city, offering 10 acres of hedgerows, grass fields, and a myriad of walkways. By some miracle, it was still kept a public space despite being surrounded by affluent homeowners and infallible retail. Here, Tricia loosened her grip on her beloved, allowing him to linger amidst the magnolia and hawthorn trees. There was much smelling to be done, and of course, much marking of territory. Flashing pink, the watch on Tricia's wrist tried to reel her thoughts back to work. She quickly turned it on silent. The two of them ambulated past the park's central plaza towards a promising-looking field. A couple of figures leaned against a distant fence, laughing communally. Well, well, Maurice, look who we got here. It was easy to tell they were technocrats. Mono-colored tees, crisp black jeans, and sometimes, if it was windy like today, acid dye hoodies. She knew a couple of them. It was hard not to, living in the vicinity and constantly checking feeds like she did. The most famous ones had names like Mark, Brent, Zach, or Evan. Names trying too hard to sound self-made, unique even, but conveniently ignoring the silver spoons that were lodged deep in their throats. They each had a canine, of course, and as Tricia approached, she could deduce their extravagant breeds from her gigs as a dog walker. One of them was a brown-black Azawak, a rare stock. Its tail, although normally curly, appeared artificially coiled to a point of such comical fakeness that it resembled a mattress spring. I hope they didn't hurt it doing that. There was also a wistful mop roving in circles, which had to be a Pekingese, a dog encouraged to appear more like living hair than an animal. Tricia noticed that they had intentionally neglected to trim its bangs, obscuring its tiny eyes. Wow, what a choice. The third, and perhaps most punk rock of all, was Jack Russell Mutt, a dog which by any other means would be a steal off of Beg's list, but was here instead, selectively purchased, no doubt for its opalescent husky eyes. Even from afar, Tricia saw their sky-blue glint and shook her head in dismay, knowing full well that each of its regular brown-eyed siblings had probably been dumped at the pound. Humans are terrible. Through feeds, Tricia knew these higher-ups had some ritual of coming out for a lunchtime laugh, where they exchanged dog pats and checked out each other's animal, as if that could tell them something about the other's portfolio. She hunched over to tend to Maurice, unpacking her frisbee and dangling it like food. You ready for some infiltration? Maurice's tail began to wag, and he gave a good bark. Let's play some harmless fetch. The disc soared across the green, its bright shape zipped above the pampered dogs, thwarting their meticulous training as each of their ears turned skyward. Maurice bounded with the grace of a racehound, despite his bear-like size and uncombed shag. The beast could reach top speeds that outperformed even Trisha on a bicycle. It had been this wild, boundless energy that first drew Trisha to adopt him, that and his dopey grin. After a few retrievals, they had edged closer to the three men, who had now taken out their vapes. Trisha pretended not to notice. She showered her beloved brute with a feast of compliments and kisses, drawing all nearby attention. Very quickly, the Jack Russell, known for their spontaneity, could no longer resist and bounded towards Maurice on the next toss. "Spritzer, come here," one of the technocrats called. Then he coughed in an exhalation of sweet, skunky pot vapor and thumped his chest. His posse laughed. "It's okay," Trisha smiled. "Maurice is friendly." She watched the Jack Russell up close and could see the intermittent shine of silver specks in his fur. Bingo. Anti-fleas. The trio's conversation lowered to a mutter. After more laughs and shrugs, the remaining dogs were permitted to join. Maurice woofed and chased the others in a friendly circle. The game of fetch was now over. Operation Playdate had begun. Take all the time you need, Trisha thought. She wished she didn't have to go through this with subterfuge every season. But anti-fleas, especially for those living on the ground floor like her, had become a necessity. It was the latest money grab from individuals that still romanticized the idea of owning a dog in the city. Any owner who wanted their pet to reach half its lifespan would be ignorant not to purchase pet defense fauna each year. Unable to afford the cost herself, Trisha was forced to pilfer the Crawley inoculations from those canines more fortunate. She approached the men and pulled out her own vape, a metal, cerulean thing she had obtained as swag from her local bank. In advertising terms, the color evoked trust and security, but in social terms, it hopefully signaled that she worked at the nearby branch and was easygoing. They acknowledged her presence with polite glances and fleeting smiles. They waited to see if she'd say anything for nearly 20 seconds. None of them had the brass to break the ice. Man-children, Trisha thought, through and through. The boldest of the group eventually lowered his sunglasses. "That's a big girl you've got. What's her name?" Trisha exhaled raspberry vapor. She could have corrected him on her beloved's gender, but it was too early to appear disagreeable. In fact, she thought it would be funny to let him think otherwise. "Oh yes, that's Maury. She's my Chow Chow Samoyed Keeshon Terrier." The three nerds nodded. None challenged the claim. "You're on lunch break?" Trisha asked. They exchanged looks, as if daring each other to speak. "Actually, no, we're done for the day." "We're at Thoughtcast." The third started saying something incoherent, and then turned away to hide his laugh. "Love social media," Trisha lied. "I check the feeds each morning." Sunglasses faked a smile. "That's what we like to hear." It was a weak joke. More awkwardness passed. "You work at Metro Bank?" the second least cowardly asked. Trisha drew some more vapor and pointed past the perimeter of trees. "I do. At the one on 41st, she looked back at Maury and could see he was already rolling between the other dogs. "Good, steady job," Sunglasses said. "You guys handle all my investments." "Mine too," the coward said. "Weight off my shoulders." The third, still giggling from his vape, finally managed to chime in. "Hey, your watch, it's flashing pink."